afternoon. It's 6 o'clock. News Crew 419 is here to bring you the hottest local and international news. Tonight, for you, we start with an in-depth analysis on the current economic situation in Brazil. We follow this with news of the delinquent boy caught on home security tape stealing a child's cherished Halloween spider right from the front steps of a local Fairhaven mother's home. To wrap up the show, we have up-to-date information coming in just minutes ago about the missing boy last seen leaving class to go to the water fountain, who, according to an eyewitness, was reportedly spotted unconscious in the hallway. All this tonight, brought to you by coverage from News Crew 419 at 6 o'clock.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
Ronnie, how happy are folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico? I'd say happier than a camel on Wednesday.
Hump day!
Get happy.
Yeah!
Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing the current disastrous economic situation of Brazil. Brazil is falling deeper into recession. The economy continues to drop into its worst recession ever. These events started to occur in the beginning of 2014. This was in part due to the crash of the Chinese stock market. Many countries, one of them being Brazil, felt the ripple effect from this tragic event. At that time, China began to demand less and less Brazilian commodities. These commodities include copper and iron ore, fertilizer, and crude oil. The purchase of these goods was a major factor in leading to Brazil's economic growth. That growth has halted, however. Since the decrease in the demand of these commodities, their GDP has continued to contract after this event. Currently, compared to last year's final quarter, their GDP has declined 3.6%. Unemployment is also at an all-time high. 13 million people are jobless. Inflation has continued to rise throughout the country to about 11%. Coming up next, we are having expert economist Thomas J. Colella to hear his insight on Brazil's dire economic situation.
Watch how OxyClean unleashes the power of oxygen, making tough stains disappear like magic without fading or bleeding the colors. Don't just clean it, OxyClean it.
Today on the show, we have expert economist, Mr. Thomas J. Colella. How are you doing today, Mr. Colella?
Doing great.
Thomas Colella has been compared to the likes of John Keynes and Adam Smith for his work in economics. This work won him a Nobel Prize in 2016. Good to have you here with us today, Thomas.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So let's talk about this Brazil economic situation. What are your thoughts on it?
To be honest, the economy just seems to be in shambles. There have been no signs of improvement. Tourism has decreased. Exports have decreased. Gang violence has increased. The only positive thing is that the political corruption seems to be in control now.
Could you elaborate on that?
Well, recently President Dilma Rousseff has been impeached due to altering the government's financial records. Temer has replaced her in office.
Okay. So, what are President Temer's economic policies to help improve Brazil's situation?
Well, first off, he wants to really break down the monopoly of Petrobras, which is a company that produces oil and petroleum. And This would make the industry just more competitive overall.
Why make the oil industry more competitive?
Well, competition will force the business to strive for perfection and innovation. Plus, to stay afloat, they will have to lower their prices. This will encourage international buyers or to consider buying petroleum from the company Petrobras.
Okay, very interesting. What else does he plan on implementing?
As well, he plans to extend the Investors Partnership Program. Hopefully, this will encourage both domestic and international investment. However, besides these two policies, he really just plans on using a hands-off policy and letting the economy self-correct itself. This is because government spending will just result in even higher inflation, which just would be just counterintuitive for the economy.
Okay. As we stated previously, 13 million people in Brazil are unemployed. What does this signify for the future of Brazil's economy?
I mean, this just could be devastating to the entire economy. It is like a downward spiraling cycle. I mean, less people working will lead to even further decline in GDP growth, which will in turn will lead to more unemployment and so on, just keep on going down.
All in all, what is your prediction for the future of Brazil's economy?
I mean, personally, as Thomas J. Colella, I think that it is bound to self-correct at some point. But however, it's really unpredictable when this change will happen.
All right, nice to speak with you, Mr. Colella. Great to have you here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we will be discussing the lives of Brazilians and how they are responding to their current economic situation.
Alright, Mr. Colella here to bring you Colella's Cut. I will be discussing my personal recommendations on how to fix Brazil's economic disaster. So first, I would decrease taxes. Although there is revenue lost for government spending, there was a huge amount of inflation due to government transfers in the past. Cutting these taxes would encourage consumers to invest their money in Brazil's infrastructure and just improve the economy as a whole. Secondly, as a monetary policy recommendation, I would encourage that the reserve requirement of Brazilian banking institutions be lowered, and that banks will be more willing to loan out money to either small businesses who need to stay afloat, or people starting up new companies, or even just people raising their standard of living by creating new homes. And lastly, as a diplomatic recommendation, I would encourage that the government reaches out to other countries to offer incentives to trade with them, in that the first crash of their economy was due to them being reliant on China as a trading partner. In the future, if they have multiple trading partners, then they could really become a world power as an economy.
Good afternoon, News 419. Michael Black reporting here from the Rio de Janeiro affiliate office to help understand the truth behind these issues in the Brazilian economy and society. So we discussed the straight information regarding the economic crisis. However, what are the implications of this on the average Brazilian? Let's go to our correspondent Shasta Darlington, who goes inside the struggling country to get the whole picture by meeting those affected.
The future no longer so bright up here, home to some of the millions of Brazilians who climbed out of poverty in recent years and now struggle to keep from falling back in. As their neighbors' purchasing power grew, Alan and Barbara launched a small cake business. Our dream was to own our own house, she says. But with the Brazilian economy in free fall, costs are up and sales are down. I'm 24 years old and I've never seen anything like this, he says. My parents told me about the hard times, but today is tough. Brazil saw a decade of unprecedented growth on the back of commodities sales to China. Now, its worst recession in nearly a century. It was precarious neighborhoods like Rocinha that really benefited during the boom years, but now businesses are closing. With inflation running at over 10% and sky-high interest rates, everyone is feeling the squeeze. We've got to save now, just spend on food and the basics, says this woman. After years of easy credit, more Brazilians have color TVs than are connected to a sewage system. But interest rates have soared to over 14%. I know a lot of people who bought cars or motorcycles to work like me, he says. Now they don't know how they can pay. Many of Brazil's poorest benefited from subsidized housing and income supplements, programs being slashed as the government reins in spending. The economic downturn fueling protests against the leftist Workers' Party, in power since 2003 and now embroiled in a massive bribery scandal. This, as the burden for many of their initial supporters gets harder to bear. Shasta Darlington.
So, as you saw, Brazilians are taking the situation in their country rather rough. Here's some figures to give you some perspective. In 2011, GDP per capita in Brazil was sitting at roughly $13,000 and change. Just 6 years later, now 2017, that GDP per capita figure has regressed to a mere $8,538.59. In addition, in 2014, just before the collapse, the unemployment rate was sitting at roughly 6% or so. Now, more than double, 13.7%. Not gonna do it. Since the recession, billions of dollars worth of investment have fled the country. All of this has led to a growing rebuke of Brazil's far-left controlling party, which took power in 2003 for the incompetency, corruption, and mismanagement of funds. Something that struck me is that even the Brazilian national soccer team, right? Their perhaps pride and joy, if you will, even their claim to fame, I would say. There's even been a blowback against them. Many Brazilians are rather upset that the government continues to spend large sums of money on lavish stadiums and equipment for the soccer team when much of the population really is suffering. Luckily for the Brazilians, the IMF, or for those who aren't familiar, the International Monetary Fund, has predicted that the recession in Brazil's economy will come to a close towards the end of the year. However, on the flip side of that, economic growth is only predicted at sub 1% for the next few years, which, isn't great, but it's in the right direction. Reporting for News 419 from Rio de Janeiro.
Alright, we're going to take a break, but stick around. We will be discussing the Fairhaven sticky spider scandal. Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing the current Who is that? Who replaced her? President
Michel Temer.
Okay.
Temer, yeah.
So, in his opinion, what are... Alright, well, this is our dry run. Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing the current economic disaster.
Luckily for Brazilians, the IMF, or those Luckily for Brazilians, the IMF, or International Monetary Fund, who are not.
Give me time. Get a straight face. Alright. Pause it.
Just go, come on.
Alright.